Captain Sarah Chun stood at the viewing window of the Earth transport ship Harmony. Stars filled the dark space ahead. The one star grew brighter than the rest. That was Zephyr Prime, the home planet of humanity's first alien friends. Sarah felt excited and nervous at the same time. After 50 years of careful talks through radio signals and video calls, humans were finally going to meet the Zephyrians in person. The insect-like aliens had been patient teachers, showing humans how galactic politics worked and what rules they needed to follow. Captain Chun, "We'll reach Zephyr Prime in 2 hours," reported Lieutenant Johnson from his station. "All passengers are ready for landing." Sarah nodded and walked through the ship to check on the most important passengers. 20 children from Earth sat in the recreation room, playing games and drawing pictures. They were between 8 and 12 years old, chosen from thousands of volunteers. Each child was smart, brave, and curious about space. "Are we really going to meet real aliens?" asked Tommy, a 10-year-old boy with red hair and freckles. "Yes, Tommy. The Zephyrians are very excited to meet you too," Sarah said with a smile. "They want to learn about how human children think and play." The children had been part of a cultural exchange program. The idea was simple. Human children would spend a month on Zephyr Prime, learning about alien culture. At the same time, young Zephyrians would visit Earth to learn about humans. Both sides hoped this would create lasting friendship between their species. Dr. Elizabeth Moore, the children's guardian, sat nearby reading reports. She was a child psychologist who had worked with alien contact teams for years. "The Zephyrians seem genuinely interested in peaceful relations," she told Sarah quietly. "Their questions about child development have been very normal so far." Sarah remembered the first video call with Ambassador Zek Thaler, the chief Zephyrian diplomat. The alien looked like a giant praying mantis with 4 arms and large, compound eyes. His voice came through a translator device that made him sound almost human. "Humans fascinate us," Zek Thaler had said. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability. Your children especially seem to possess unique learning capabilities. We would be honored to study these traits in a peaceful setting." The Earth government had debated for months. Some officials worried about sending children so far from home. But the Zephyrians had shared advanced medical technology and promised complete safety. They even built special living areas on their planet designed for human comfort. "Attention all passengers," announced the ship's computer. "We are beginning our approach to Zephyr Prime. Please prepare for landing." Sarah looked out at the alien world growing larger in the window. Zephyr Prime was mostly purple and green, with 3 small moons circling it. Strange cities covered the surface, their buildings reaching high into the sky like crystal trees. The landing was smooth. As the ship's doors opened, Sarah saw a group of Zephyrians waiting on the landing platform. They wore colorful robes and moved with quick, precise motions. Ambassador Zek Thaler stepped forward. His 4 arms spread wide in what humans had learned was a greeting gesture. "Welcome to Zephyr Prime, Captain Chun," the alien said through his translator. "We are deeply honored by your presence." Behind him, dozens of other Zephyrians watched with their large, unblinking eyes. Sarah noticed how they focused on the children, tracking their movements with intense interest. "Thank you, Ambassador," Sarah replied. "We're grateful for your hospitality and excited to begin this historic exchange." The children stepped off the ship with wonder in their eyes. They had seen pictures and videos, but meeting real aliens was completely different. Some Zephyrians were as tall as adult humans, while others were smaller. Their skin had a shiny metallic quality that changed color in the alien sunlight. "Your offspring are remarkable," said Dr. Vex Koren, the Zephyrian scientist in charge of the exchange program. "We have prepared extensive learning opportunities for them. Our research facilities are equipped with the finest educational tools in the galaxy. Dr. Moore stepped closer to the children. "Remember what we practiced," she told them softly. "Stay together, follow the rules, and have fun learning." The Zephyrians led the human group to a transport vehicle that floated above the ground. As they traveled through the alien city, the children pressed against the windows, asking endless questions about everything they saw. "Why are the buildings so tall?" asked Lisa, an 8-year-old girl. "We Zephyrians prefer vertical development," explained Dr. Vex Corin. "It allows us to house more citizens while preserving natural areas." The human living area was impressive. The Zephyrians had built a complex that looked almost like Earth buildings from the outside. Inside, everything was designed for human comfort. There were familiar beds, Earth-style bathrooms, and even a recreation room with games and books. "This is amazing," said Maria, one of the older children. "It's like they built a piece of Earth just for us." Over the next few days, the children began their learning program. Zephyrian teachers showed them alien technology, art, and science. The aliens seemed especially interested in how quickly human children adapted to new situations. "Fascinating," Dr. Vex Corin told his assistants after watching the children solve complex puzzles. "Human cognitive development exceeds our models. Their emotional responses are particularly intense." Sarah noticed that the Zephyrians always wanted to study the children separately. When she asked about this, Ambassador Zek Thaler explained that it was normal scientific procedure. "We must understand each individual's unique characteristics," he said. "Group studies can mask important details about human development." Dr. Moore felt slightly uncomfortable, but couldn't explain why. The Zephyrians were polite and seemed genuinely interested in education. Their questions were detailed, but appeared scientific in nature. How do human children respond to stress? Dr. Vex Corin asked during one of their meetings. What are their physical limits? How quickly do they recover from challenging experiences? Those seem like unusual questions for a cultural exchange, Dr. Moore replied carefully. Knowledge of resilience is important for future cooperation, the alien scientist explained. If our species are to work together, we must understand each other's capabilities completely. Sarah approved extended observation sessions, thinking it was part of normal scientific curiosity. The Zephyrians had been nothing but helpful and friendly. Their technology could benefit humanity greatly, and this exchange was the first step toward joining the galactic community. None of the humans suspected that behind those large, compound eyes, the Zephyrians were planning something terrible. They saw human children not as individuals to protect and nurture, but as test subjects to understand and exploit. The first week passed peacefully. The children learned alien languages, played with Zephyrian technology, and sent happy messages back to Earth. Their parents watched these videos with pride and excitement. No one knew that this would be the last week of innocence for both species. Dr. Elizabeth Moore woke up feeling worried. Something was wrong, but she couldn't explain what it was. For 3 weeks, the children had been having their daily sessions with Zephyrian scientists. But yesterday, the aliens had asked to keep the children overnight for extended observation. It's perfectly normal, Dr. Vex Corin had assured her. We want to study human sleep patterns and dream cycles. This requires continuous monitoring. Now it was morning, and Dr. Moore hadn't heard from the children. Usually, they sent video messages to their parents on Earth every day. Today, there was only silence. She walked quickly to the communication center where Captain Chen was trying to contact the Zephyrian research facility. Any word from the children? Dr. Moore asked. Captain Chen shook her head, her face showing concern. The Zephyrians say the children are still sleeping. They won't let us visit until this afternoon. Something cold formed in Dr. Moore's stomach. In all her years working with children, she had never known 20 kids to sleep past noon. especially in an exciting alien environment. I want to see them now, Dr. Moore said firmly. I've been asking for 2 hours, Captain Chun replied. Ambassador Zek Thaler keeps making excuses. Dr. Moore had studied alien psychology for years. She knew that different species had different social rules. But her human instincts were screaming that something was terribly wrong. At that moment, Lieutenant Johnson burst into the room. His face was pale and his hands were shaking. Captain, we just received an emergency signal from inside the research facility, he said breathlessly. It's from Tommy's personal communicator. The message just says, "Help us," repeated over and over. Captain Chun stood up immediately. Get our security team ready. We're going to the facility now. The Zephyrians tried to stop them at the facility entrance. Dr. Vex Corin appeared with several guards, his forearms moving in agitated gestures. This is highly irregular, the alien scientist said. Our research requires controlled conditions. Your presence would contaminate our data. Our children are in distress, Captain Chun said coldly. Stand aside or we will move you aside. The Zephyrians looked at each other with their compound eyes. Something passed between them that the humans couldn't understand. Finally, Dr. Vex Corin stepped away from the door. Very well, but you may not interfere with our work. The human security team followed Captain Chun and Dr. Moore through the alien facility. The corridors were too quiet. There should have been sounds of children laughing, playing, or at least talking. Instead, there was only the hum of alien machines. They reached a large laboratory door. Through the transparent wall, Dr. Moore saw something that made her scream. 20 small tables were arranged in rows. On each table lay a human child. Machines surrounded them, with wires and tubes connected to their small bodies. Some children weren't moving. Others were conscious but unable to speak. Because of the devices covering their mouths, Dr. Moore ran to the nearest table where Lisa, the 8-year-old girl, lay with tears running down her face. The child's eyes were wide with terror and pain. What have you done? Dr. Moore shouted at the Zephyrian scientists who stood calmly nearby, taking notes on electronic devices. We are studying human pain tolerance and adaptation capabilities, Dr. Vex Corin explained as if discussing the weather. These tests are necessary to understand human limitations. Captain Chun rushed from table to table, checking each child. Her training told her to stay calm, but her heart was breaking. 12 children showed no signs of life. 8 others were alive but clearly suffering. You're torturing children. Captain Chun screamed at the aliens. They're babies. How could you do this? The Zephyrians seemed genuinely confused by the human, emotional response. Dr. Vex Corin tilted his insect-like head to one side. Torture is an inefficient concept, he said. We are conducting necessary research. Human children possess remarkable resilience. These tests will help us understand your species' true capabilities. Dr. Moore was working frantically to disconnect the machines from Lisa. The child was alive but weak. Her small hand gripped Dr. Moore's arm with desperate strength. They said it wouldn't hurt, Lisa whispered through damaged lips. They lied to us, Dr. Moore. They hurt us so much. The security team had moved to help the other surviving children. The facility's medical equipment was advanced, but it had been used to cause harm instead of healing. Why? Captain Chun demanded, her voice filled with rage she had never felt before. Why would you hurt innocent children? Ambassador Zek Thaler entered the laboratory with more Zephyrian officials. He observed the human emotional response with scientific interest. Your species presents a significant threat to galactic stability, the ambassador explained calmly. Humans adapt too quickly. You learn too fast. You form emotional bonds that make you unpredictable. We needed to understand your weaknesses. These children trusted you, Dr. Moore said, while wrapping Lisa in a blanket. "They came here with open hearts, wanting to be your friends. Friendship is a human concept that we do not share," Dr. Vexcorn replied. "We see only potential threats that must be studied and controlled." The human security team carefully moved the surviving children to their transport. Each child who could speak told the same story. The Zephyrians had separated them from each other. They had run tests that caused terrible pain. They had shown no mercy when the children cried and begged them to stop. Tommy, the red-haired boy who had been so excited to meet aliens, could barely walk. But he managed to tell Captain Chun the worst part. "They recorded everything," he whispered. "They said the videos would help them understand how to make humans afraid." Back on their ship, Dr. Moore worked with the medical team to care for the surviving children. The physical injuries were bad enough, but the emotional damage was even worse. These children had learned that the universe contained beings who would hurt them, for no reason other than curiosity. Captain Chun sent an immediate message to Earth. But she also sent a copy to the Galactic Federation headquarters. She demanded immediate justice for what had been done to innocent human children. The response from the Galactic Federation came 6 hours later. It was not what the humans expected. "The Zephyrian research falls within acceptable scientific parameters," the message read. "Human emotional attachment to offspring is noted but not legally relevant. The Federation suggests this incident be treated as a cultural misunderstanding." Captain Chun read the message 3 times before her. Anger turned to something colder and more dangerous. "Cultural misunderstanding?" she said quietly to Dr. Moore. "They think torturing our children is a misunderstanding." Dr. Moore was sitting beside Lisa's bed. The little girl was finally sleeping, but even in sleep she whimpered and flinched as if something was still hurting her. "What do we do now?" Dr. Moore asked. Captain Chun looked at the sleeping children, then at the message from the Galactic Federation. Her voice was steady but filled with a promise that would soon reshape the galaxy. "We go home," she said, "and then we make sure this never happens again." The journey back to Earth was quiet. The surviving children slept most of the way, recovering from their ordeal. But in the ship's communication center, Captain Chun was sending coded messages to Earth's military leadership. The humans were about to learn what their species was truly capable of when someone harmed their young. The Zephyrians and the Galactic Federation had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had hurt human children and thought there would be no real consequences. They were about to discover how wrong they were. President Maria Santos sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the White House. Around the table were the most powerful people on Earth, military commanders, intelligence directors, and the heads of every major government. But all of them were staring at the video screen showing 8 traumatized children in a hospital bed. "Show me the footage again," President Santos said quietly. The video played once more. It showed the Zephyrian research facility and what had been done to 20 human children. 12 small caskets were being prepared in the ship's cargo bay. 8 survivors were getting medical treatment, but their minds would carry scars forever. General Patricia Reyes, head of Earth Space Command, spoke first. "Madam President, we need to respond immediately. This is an act of war against our species." "The Galactic Federation doesn't see it that way," said Director Williams from the CIA. "They're calling it a scientific accident. They want us to accept an apology and some technology as payment for our loss." President Santos felt rage building inside her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "What kind of payment do they think is appropriate for the murder of children?" "Advanced medical scanners and a promise to be more careful in future experiments," Director Williams replied. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The galaxy saw human children as test subjects, not as people who deserve protection. Dr. Marcus Webb sat at the end of the table. He was a xenobiologist who had helped design first contact protocols. He was also the father of Jenny Webb, a 9-year-old girl who would never come home. When he spoke, his voice was steady, but his eyes were filled with cold fury. "I've been studying alien psychology for 15 years, Dr. Webb said. The Zephyrians don't understand emotional bonds. To them, our children were just biological samples. They will do this again if given the chance." "What are you suggesting?" President Santos asked. "I'm suggesting we activate Project Shepherd," Dr. Webb replied. General Reyes sat forward. Project Shepherd was classified at the highest levels. Only 12 people on Earth knew it existed. "Madam President," General Reyes said carefully, "Project Shepherd was designed for the worst-case scenario. If we activate it, there's no going back." President Santos had hoped this day would never come. When humans first made contact with aliens, some scientists had warned that peaceful species might be rare in the galaxy. Project Shepherd was humanity's insurance policy against hostile alien contact. "Explain the project to everyone here," President Santos ordered. General Reyes stood up and activated a holographic display. It showed star maps, ship designs, and weapon systems that looked decades ahead of anything the public knew about. "For the past 30 years, we've been secretly developing military technology based on theoretical alien threats," General Reyes explained. "We assumed that if aliens existed, some of them would be hostile. We prepared accordingly." The hologram showed massive ships hidden in asteroid fields throughout the solar system, weapons that could destroy planets, defense systems that could protect Earth from any known form of attack. "We shared primitive technology with the Zephyrians during first contact," General Reyes continued. "We wanted them to think we were a weak species that needed their protection. In reality, our true technology is centuries beyond what they've seen." President Santos looked around the table. "If we activate Shepherd, what happens to our relationship with the Galactic Federation?" "There won't be a Galactic Federation when we're done," Dr. Webb said quietly. "At least, not one that allows the torture of children." The President made her decision. "Activate Project Shepherd. Begin immediate withdrawal of all human personnel from alien space. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you harm our young." Within 6 hours, every human ship, station, and citizen began returning to Earth space. The withdrawal was swift and complete. Human ambassadors left alien planets without explanation. Trade agreements were canceled. All communication with alien species stopped. The Galactic Federation was confused by the sudden human withdrawal. Ambassador Zach Thaler sent many messages to Earth, but received no replies. "Perhaps they are having an emotional reaction," the Zephyrian diplomat told the Federation Council. "Humans seem to have strong feelings about their offspring. They will calm down and return when they realize they need our technology." The Federation decided to wait for humanity to come back asking for forgiveness. They had no idea what was really happening in human space. Dr. Webb now wore the uniform of a military commander. He stood in the secret command center of Project Shepherd, watching as hidden ships throughout the solar system powered up for the first time. "Sir, all Shepherd assets are online," reported Captain Jackson, his new aide. "We have 200 ships ready for combat operations." "What about the new weapons?" Dr. Webb asked. "Quantum disruptors are fully charged. Phase shift drives are operational. Warfare systems are standing by for activation." Dr. Webb thought about his daughter Jenny. She had loved drawing pictures of alien friends. She had been excited to learn about other worlds and other species. The Zephyrians had taken her bright curiosity and turned it into fear and pain. "Sir, we're receiving signals from alien space," reported the communications officer. "The Zephyrians are asking why we've withdrawn from diplomatic contact." "No response," Dr. Webb ordered. "They'll understand soon enough." General Reyes joined him at the command center. She brought reports from intelligence services around the world. "We've identified every Zephyrian installation in the galaxy," she said. "Military bases, research facilities, colonies, even their hidden observation posts. Our AI systems have been mapping their infrastructure for decades. What about their allies?" Dr. Webb asked. "The Galactic Federation has 37 member species. Most of them are weak and depend on the Zephyrians for protection. A few species might try to defend them." Dr. Webb studied the star charts showing Zephyrian space. Billions of aliens lived on hundreds of worlds. But when he closed his eyes, he still saw the video of human children crying for help while alien scientists took notes. "Sir, President Santos wants to speak with you," Captain Jackson announced. The president appeared on the main screen from her secure bunker. Behind her stood the leaders of every major nation on Earth. "Dr. Webb, the world is united behind this operation," President Santos said. "Every government has contributed to shepherd. Every military force is under your command. Do what needs to be done." Dr. Webb nodded. "What about diplomatic solutions? Some Federation species might be willing to deliver justice for what was done to our children." "We tried diplomacy," President Santos replied. "The Federation called the torture of children a misunderstanding. They think we should accept payment and move on. They don't understand that when you harm human children, you face the consequences." The communication ended. Dr. Webb turned to address the command center. "Attention all Shepherd personnel," he announced. "We are beginning Operation Guardian. Our mission is simple. Any species that harms human children will be eliminated. Any government that protects such species will share their fate." "Sir, what about civilian casualties?" asked Captain Jackson. Dr. Webb thought about Lisa's terrified eyes and Tommy's broken whisper asking for help. He thought about the 8 children who would never feel safe again. He thought about 12 small caskets being loaded onto Earth transport ships. "The Zephyrians didn't care about innocent victims when they tortured our children," he said coldly. "They made their choice. Now they live with the consequences. Or don't live with them." The hidden fleet began moving toward alien space. Advanced ships that had never been seen outside human territory were about to introduce themselves to the galaxy. The Zephyrians had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had hurt human children and expected no real punishment. They were about to learn what human vengeance looked like when unleashed without mercy. Admiral Vex Thaler stood on the command deck of the Zephyrian defense station orbiting their home world. His forearms worked frantically at the control panels as alarm sounds filled the air. Something impossible was happening. "Report," he demanded from his communications officer. "Sir, our outer colony of Hex 7 has gone silent," the officer replied with panic in his voice. "All communications stopped exactly 43 minutes ago." Admiral Vex Thaler felt confusion in his compound eyes. Hex 7 was one of their strongest military colonies. It had powerful shields and hundreds of defense ships. Nothing in the galaxy could destroy it so quickly. "Send a reconnaissance ship to investigate," he ordered. "Sir, we sent 3 ships an hour ago," the communications officer said. They all went silent when they reached Hex 7's location. At that moment, new alarms started sounding throughout the station. The long-range sensors had detected something approaching Zephyrian space. "What are those readings?" Admiral Vex Thaler asked the sensor operator. "Sir, I'm detecting 200 unknown ships moving toward our territory," came the reply. "They're using technology we don't recognize. Their energy signatures are completely alien to our databases." Admiral Vex Thaler felt the first touch of real fear. In his 500 years of military service, he had never encountered technology that Zephyrian science couldn't identify. "Can you determine which species these ships belong to?" he asked Don, The sensor operator worked at his controls for several minutes before looking up with confusion. "Sir, the ship designs don't match any known Federation species." "But sir, the ships are coming from the direction of human space." "Impossible," Admiral Vex Thaler said immediately. "Humans have primitive technology. We've seen their capabilities." But even as he spoke, the Admiral remembered something that made his blood cold. During first contact, human ships had seemed too simple for a species capable of interstellar travel. The human technology they had shared was strangely basic for such an advanced civilization. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the approaching fleet," the communications officer announced. "Put it through," the Admiral ordered. The main screen activated, showing a human face that Admiral Vex Thaler recognized. It was Dr. Marcus Webb, the xenobiologist who had helped arrange the cultural exchange program. But now the human's expression was completely different. His eyes held a cold fury that made the Zephyrian's exoskeleton shiver. "My name is Dr. Marcus Webb," the human said calmly. "You killed my daughter and 19 other human children. You treated them as test subjects instead of the innocent beings they were. Now you face the consequences." "Dr. Webb, surely we can discuss this rationally," Admiral Vex Thaler replied. "The research was conducted according to standard Federation protocols." "There will be no discussion," Dr. Webb interrupted. "You had your chance for mercy when you chose to torture children. That chance is over." The transmission ended. Admiral Vex Thaler immediately began broadcasting to the Galactic Federation, requesting emergency assistance. "This is Zephyr Prime Defense Command requesting immediate military support," he sent. "We are under attack by unknown human forces with advanced technology." The response from Federation headquarters came quickly. "Impossible. Humans possess only primitive space travel. Send accurate sensor readings." Before Admiral Vex Thaler could reply, his sensors detected the human fleet arriving at the edge of Zephyrian space. What happened next changed his understanding of everything. The human ships simply vanished from normal space. One moment they were there, the next moment they were gone. The Zephyrian sensors couldn't track them at all. "Where did they go?" the Admiral demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show empty space where the ships used to be." 3 minutes later, explosions began occurring throughout Zephyrian territory. Military bases that had existed for thousands of years were destroyed in seconds. Defense platforms that could withstand planet-killing weapons were torn apart by forces that unmade matter itself. "Sir, Fortress Kel-9 has been destroyed," reported the communications officer. "Defensive grid Zex Alpha is gone. The orbital weapons platform above Colony Prime has been eliminated." Admiral Vex Thaler watched in horror as every military installation in Zephyrian space was systematically destroyed. The attacks came from invisible ships that appeared, fired, and vanished before Zephyrian weapons could lock onto them. "How are they doing this?" he asked his science officer. "Sir, they appear to be using quantum phase technology," came the terrified reply. "They can exist between dimensions, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons." The Admiral tried to coordinate a defense, but it was useless. Every time Zephyrian ships tried to engage the humans, they found empty space. The human vessels attacked from angles that physics said were impossible. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy built up near our homeworld," the sensor operator announced with panic in his voice. "Admiral." Vex Thaler looked at his screen and saw something that made him understand how completely they had underestimated humanity. A human ship the size of a small moon had appeared in orbit above Zephyr Prime. It wasn't attacking yet, but energy readings showed it could destroy the entire planet with a single shot. "This is Dr. Webb," came a transmission from the massive ship. "I want every Zephyrian in the galaxy to hear this message. You took 20 human children and subjected them to torture and murder for your scientific curiosity. 12 children died screaming for help that never came. 8 survived but will carry scars forever. The transmission was being broadcast to every planet, ship, and station in Zephyrian space. Billions of aliens watched as the human continued speaking. Your Federation called this a misunderstanding, Dr. Webb said. They offered technology as payment for murdered children. They don't understand that when you harm human children, there is only one acceptable response: extinction. Admiral Vex Thaler tried to send a surrender message, but his communications were blocked by human jamming technology. Sir, they're targeting our civilian colonies too, reported another officer. Every Zephyrian settlement is under attack. The Admiral felt despair as he realized the truth. This wasn't a military campaign. This was complete extermination. The humans weren't trying to defeat the Zephyrian military. They were erasing the entire species from existence. Sir, Federation ships are jumping into our space, the communications officer announced. 7 Federation species are sending military aid. For a moment, Admiral Vex Thaler felt hope. The combined Federation fleet included hundreds of advanced warships. Surely they could stop the humans. His hope lasted exactly 18 minutes. Dr. Webb's voice came through the communications again. Any species that aids those who harmed human children will share their fate. This is your only warning. The Federation ships tried to engage the human fleet. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of technology so advanced that Federation science couldn't understand it. Human ships appeared inside Federation vessels, destroying them from within. Entire fleets simply stopped existing, their matter converted to energy by weapons that worked on quantum levels. Sir, the Federation fleet is gone, reported the sensor operator in a broken voice. All ships destroyed. No survivors detected. Admiral Vex Thaler realized that his species had made a mistake that would cost them everything. They had tortured human children and expected no real consequences. They had judged humanity by their primitive public technology and missed the advanced weapons hidden in human space. Sir, we're receiving final transmissions from our remaining colonies, the communications officer said. Colony Hex Prime reports human ships in orbit. Colony Zex Beta has gone silent. Our research stations are being systematically destroyed. The Admiral watched his screens as every green dot representing a Zephyrian world turned red and then disappeared entirely. A species that had existed for millions of years was being erased from the galaxy in a matter of hours. This is Colony Vex 9, came a desperate transmission. We surrender. We have civilians here. We have children. Dr. Webb's response came immediately. You should have thought about children before you tortured ours. No surrender accepted. The transmission from Colony Vex 9 ended abruptly. Admiral Vex Thaler tried one final desperate plea. Dr. Webb, surely some mercy is possible. Not all Zephyrians were involved in the research project. You're right, Dr. Webb replied. Most of your species had nothing to do with harming our children. But your government approved it. Your Federation supported it. Your society allowed it. When you permit the torture of children, your entire civilization becomes complicit. The massive human ship above Zephyr Prime began charging its planet-killing weapon. Admiral Vex Thaler knew that in minutes, his homeworld and billions of his people would be gone forever. This is the last message from Zephyr Prime, he broadcast to the galaxy. We underestimated human protective instincts. We thought they were weak because they seemed peaceful. We were wrong. Never harm human children. Never. The transmission ended as the human weapon fired, and Zephyr Prime became a cloud of glowing dust. 6 months had passed since the last Zephyrian ship was destroyed. The galaxy was a very different place now. Ambassador Chen Li stood before the ruins of the old Galactic Federation Council chamber, preparing for the most important speech in galactic history. The chamber had been rebuilt on Earth. Every surviving species in the galaxy had sent representatives to hear humanity's terms for peace. The beings who sat in the audience were nervous and afraid. They had all seen what happened to species that harmed human children. Ambassador Chen Li looked out at the diverse crowd of aliens. Some looked like insects, others like reptiles or mammals. A few were energy beings that glowed with soft light. All of them were here because they wanted to live in a universe where humans didn't see them as enemies. 6 months ago, the Zephyrian species committed an unforgivable crime. Ambassador Chen Li began. They tortured and murdered human children in the name of science. They showed no mercy to innocent beings who had come to them in friendship and trust. The audience remained perfectly silent. Every alien present remembered the videos that had been broadcast across the galaxy, showing what happened to species that harmed human young. The old Galactic Federation had the chance to deliver justice, the ambassador continued. Instead, they called the torture of children a misunderstanding. They offered technology as payment for murdered innocents. They failed to protect the most vulnerable members of our species. In the front row sat survivors from various species that had tried to help the Zephyrians. The lucky ones had surrendered quickly when human ships appeared in their space. The others had learned that human mercy was reserved only for those who protected children, not those who helped their killers. Today begins a new era, Ambassador Chen Li announced. The Terran Protectorate will ensure that no child of any species suffers as our children suffered. The rules are simple and absolute. A holographic display activated, showing the new galactic laws that would govern all species. The first law appeared in letters that seemed to burn with inner fire. First law: any individual who deliberately harms a child of any species forfeits their right to exist. There are no exceptions. There is no mercy. There is no appeal. Murmurs ran through the audience. Some aliens had never considered that other species young might be worthy of protection. They were learning quickly. Second law: any government or organization that permits, encourages, or fails to prevent the harm of children will face complete extinction. This includes leaders, supporters, and anyone who could have stopped such crimes but chose not to act. The holographic display showed images of former Zephyrian colonies that were now empty space. The message was clear. Humanity didn't make threats they weren't willing to enforce. Third law: any species that aids those who harm children becomes complicit in their crimes. Protection of child killers is equivalent to child killing. The consequences are identical. Ambassador Chen Li paused to let the weight of these words settle over the audience. She remembered the footage of Tommy whispering "help us" into his communicator while Zephyrian scientists recorded his pain. That memory would drive human policy for centuries to come. Some of you may think these laws are too harsh, the ambassador continued. Some may believe that cultural differences excuse harm to innocents. Let me be absolutely clear. There are no cultural differences that justify the torture of children. Period. Dr. Moore, now Director of Child Protection Services for the Terran Protectorate, joined Ambassador Chen Li on the stage. She carried a tablet containing reports from across the galaxy. In the past 6 months, we have investigated child welfare on 237 worlds, Dr. Moore announced. We found conditions that were unacceptable. Species that used child labor, governments that permitted abuse, organizations that exploited young beings for profit. The audience grew more nervous. Many species had practices that they now realized might be seen as harmful by human standards. However, Dr. Moore continued, we also found species that were willing to change, governments that improved their laws, civilizations that adopted better protection for their young. These species have nothing to fear from humanity. The holographic display changed to show a list of species that were now under Terran protection. They included several civilizations that had once been conquered or enslaved by more powerful neighbors. The Galax people, who were used as slave labor by the Gordanian Empire, are now free, Dr. Moore said. The peaceful Tamaranians, whose children were taken for military training by aggressive neighbors, are now protected. 17 species that faced extinction from more powerful enemies now live safely under Terran guardianship. Ambassador Chun-Li resumed speaking. Humanity does not seek to conquer or rule the galaxy. We seek to protect the innocent and punish those who harm them. Any species that shares these values will find us to be generous allies. An alien representative from the Sector Council raised a tentacle to ask a question. Ambassador Xin-Li recognized the being, whose species looked like purple octopi with multiple eyes. Ambassador Chen-Li, what happens to species that have harmed children in the past but have changed their ways? The alien asked nervously. That depends on several factors, the ambassador replied. Did they harm children through ignorance or cruelty? Have they made genuine efforts to change? Have they provided justice for their victims? Have they taken steps to ensure such harm never happens again? The alien looked relieved. His species had once used child labor, but had stopped the practice years ago when they learned it was harmful. We judge species by their actions, not their history, Ambassador Chen-Li said. Redemption is possible for those who truly seek it. Extinction awaits those who don't. Tommy Martinez stood up in the audience. He was now 19 years old and served as a junior ambassador for the Terran Protectorate. The aliens in the chamber recognized him as one of the 8 survivors of the Zephyrian experiments. I want to say something, Tommy announced. Tommy walked to the front of the chamber. He still moved carefully, as his body bore scars from the alien experiments. But his voice was strong and clear. When I was 10 years old, I was excited to meet aliens and make friends with other species, he said. The Zephyrians took that excitement and turned it into nightmare. They hurt me and my friends because they thought we were just test subjects. The chamber was completely silent as Tommy continued. For a long time, I hated all aliens. I wanted them all to suffer like we suffered. But I've learned something important. Most species in the galaxy are nothing like the Zephyrians. Most aliens care about their young and want to protect children. Tommy looked around at the various alien representatives. The new laws aren't about revenge, he said. They're about making sure no child ever experiences what we experienced. They're about creating a galaxy where young beings can grow up safe and happy, regardless of what species they belong to. Lisa Hendricks, now 18 and serving as director of interspecies relations, joined Tommy at the front of the chamber. The survivors of the Zephyrian experiments want the galaxy to know that we don't want more violence, she said. We want the laws that protect children to be enforced, but we also want peace with species that respect those laws. Ambassador Chen-Li smiled at the 2 young survivors. They had turned their trauma into a mission to protect other children across the galaxy. The Terran Protectorate offers membership to any species that accepts our child protection laws, Ambassador Chen-Li announced. Members receive advanced medical technology, defensive assistance, and access to human innovations that will improve life for your people. The holographic display showed the benefits of membership: life-extending medicine, clean energy technology, and defensive systems that could protect planets from natural disasters. We also offer associate membership to species that prefer independence, but agree to follow our child protection standards, the ambassador continued. Associates receive many benefits without having to change their governments or join our political structure. An alien that looked like a crystal being made of living gemstones stood up to speak. What happens to species that refuse both membership and child protection laws? It asked. Ambassador Chen-Li's expression grew cold. Species that refuse to protect children are declared enemies of civilization. They receive no trade, no assistance, and no mercy if they harm innocents. If they actively threaten children, they receive the same treatment as the Zephyrians. The crystal being nodded nervously and sat down. The choice is yours, Ambassador Chenli concluded. Join a galaxy that protects its most vulnerable members, or face the consequences of a humanity that will never again allow children to be harmed without response. Over the following hours, representatives from 143 species requested membership in the Terran Protectorate. 57 others asked for associate status. Only 12 species refused to accept the child protection laws. Those 12 species would find themselves completely isolated from galactic society, trade embargo, no diplomatic contact, no assistance in emergencies. They were free to continue their harmful practices, but they would do so alone and unprotected. Dr. Webb, now Admiral of Terran Defense Forces, addressed the gathering as it concluded. To those species joining us in protecting children, welcome to a new era of galactic civilization.